Tonight, we will tell you a story that has been whispered through centuries, a tale shrouded in mystery, yet built on the very foundations of human connection. The story of the Freemasons. You will learn about their ancient origins, tracing back to the dust and stone of medieval cathedrals. You will discover how a brotherhood of builders transformed into a society of thinkers, influencing revolutions and shaping nations. We will explore their symbols, their rituals, and the profound ideas they represent, aiming to understand the principles that have guided them for hundreds of years. You will hear about the accusations and fears that have pursued them and how they have adapted while remaining true to their core values. This is a quiet narrative of a fraternity that has left an indelible mark on history. Oh, and if you enjoy these stories designed to gently guide you into a restful sleep, please consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Your support helps these narratives reach more people seeking a peaceful end to their day. All right? Find a comfortable spot, perhaps in your bed or a favorite armchair. Let your body sink into the softness beneath you. Take a deep, slow breath and feel the tension begin to melt away. Allow your thoughts to quiet, preparing your mind for a journey into the past. The journey into the world of the Freemasons begins with the humble yet profound work of craftsmen, whose hands shaped the very stones of medieval Europe, laying the groundwork for a brotherhood that would eventually span the globe. To truly understand the whispers of the Brotherhood, we must journey back, not to grand halls filled with men in dark suits, but to the dust-filled construction sites of medieval Europe. Imagine the towering cathedrals, their spires reaching for the heavens, their massive stone walls rising from the earth, long enduring symbols of faith and human ingenuity. These monumental structures were not built by chance or by isolated individuals. They were the painstaking work of a remarkable class of artisans, the stonemasons. In an age before modern machinery, when the very concept of a skyscraper was beyond imagination, these master builders possessed a unique and invaluable skill. They were the architects, the engineers, the sculptors, and the laborers all in one, transforming raw stone into intricate beauty and immense strength. Their knowledge was not merely practical, it bordered on the esoteric, a kind of hidden wisdom. They understood the properties of different types of stone, how to quarry them, transport them, and shape them with precision. They mastered the complex principles of geometry, applying ancient theorems to design perfect arches and vaults. They understood the delicate balance of forces, the distribution of weight, and the precise calculations required to raise massive domes and spires that defied gravity and stood for centuries against the ravages of time. This profound knowledge, encompassing both practical application and theoretical understanding, was not readily available to the common person. It was a treasure passed down through generations, often guarded jealously within their tight-knit communities, for it represented their livelihood, their unique identity, and their very purpose in a world where such skills were rare and highly prized. The life of a medieval stonemason was one of constant movement and dedication. Grand cathedral projects could take decades, even centuries to complete, often spanning multiple generations of a single family of masons. These skilled craftsmen would travel from one building site to another, sometimes across vast distances and different kingdoms, following the persistent demand for their specialized abilities. This itinerant lifestyle meant they were frequently far from their established homes and families, living in temporary communities that sprang up around the colossal construction sites. It was out of this profound necessity for mutual support, protection, and shared existence, amidst the challenges and dangers of their demanding profession, that the fundamental principles of their brotherhood began to solidify and deepen. To protect their valuable trade, to ensure the unwavering quality of their intricate work, and to provide comprehensive welfare for their members, these highly respected craftsmen formed formal associations known as guilds. Within these broader artisan guilds, the stonemasons established their own specific and highly organized bodies, often referred to as lodges. In its earliest and most literal sense, a lodge was indeed a simple yet essential temporary shelter, constructed directly on the building site itself. It was a practical place where masons could find refuge from the harsh elements, where they could eat their meals, sleep after long days of labor, and, crucially, store their valuable and often specialized tools securely. However, over time, the term lodge evolved to encompass far more than just a physical building. It became the very heart of their close-knit community, the crucible where their unique craft was meticulously honed, diligently practiced, and faithfully passed down from one generation to the next. Inside the lodge, amidst the constant rhythmic clang of hammers and chisels, with the air perpetually thick with fine stone dust and the smell of wood and mortar, the masons shared not only their daily meals, but also their invaluable, hard-won knowledge. Here, young apprentices learned the foundational skills from experienced journeymen, and journeymen in turn absorbed the deeper, more complex techniques from the revered masters. The secrets of their trade, the precise angles for cutting and dressing stone, the intricate methods for ensuring structural integrity, the sophisticated techniques for carving elaborate designs, and the profound understanding of sacred geometry were rarely, if ever, committed to written form. Instead, they were painstakingly demonstrated, meticulously practiced, and profoundly absorbed through direct, hands-on mentorship. This rich oral tradition, combined with practical, experiential learning, fostered an unbreakable bond of deep trust, unwavering reliance, and profound mutual respect among all the members. Beyond the acquisition of these highly specialized technical skills, the Masons also developed a profound ethical and moral framework, one that was intrinsically rooted in the demanding and unforgiving nature of their craft. Building a structure that was not only aesthetically pleasing, but also meant to stand strong for centuries, enduring the test of time and weather, required absolute honesty, unwavering integrity, and meticulous attention to detail. A poorly cut stone, a dishonest measurement, or a lack of dedication to the highest standards could lead to catastrophic structural failure, endangering countless lives and irrevocably ruining a mason's hard-earned reputation. Thus, virtues like precision, truthfulness, diligence, fairness, and loyalty to their fellow craftsmen became not just desirable traits, but paramount necessities for collective survival and enduring success. The very tools of their trade, the square, the compass, the plumb rule, the level, and the gavel, were not merely instruments for shaping raw stone. They became powerful, enduring symbols for moral and ethical conduct, guiding the Mason's life as profoundly as they guided his work. The square taught them to square their actions with virtue and integrity, the compass to circumscribe their desires and keep them within due bounds, and the level and plumb rule to walk uprightly and live in true equality with their brethren, regardless of their station outside the lodge. The term Freemason itself is widely believed to have originated from a specific and crucial distinction within this ancient craft. Unlike serfs or other bonded laborers who were inextricably tied to a particular feudal lord or a specific plot of land, these highly skilled masons were considered free. This meant they possessed the unique right to travel freely, often across vast distances in different kingdoms, wherever their highly sought-after expertise was most needed. They were not bound by rigid feudal obligations, but instead contracted their valuable labor independently, moving from one ambitious project to another. This exceptional freedom, combined with their rare and specialized knowledge, afforded them a distinct and respected status in medieval society. They operated under their own internal rules, governed by their own unwritten laws and customs, and were largely self-regulating, independent of external authorities. This significant autonomy fostered a powerful spirit of independence, self-governance, and deep mutual respect among them, foundational elements that would later come to define the modern organized brotherhood. As the centuries gently unfolded, these operative lodges, born from the practical everyday needs of skilled builders, gradually transformed into much more than mere workshops. They became profound repositories not only of architectural skill, but also of deeply embedded traditions, complex allegorical rituals, and rich moral teachings. The unbreakable bonds forged in the shared colossal effort of raising a grand cathedral, the invaluable lessons learned from the unyielding and honest nature of stone, and the enduring principles of brotherhood and mutual aid that were absolutely necessary for survival on distant and challenging building sites, all contributed to the formation of a unique and enduring culture. This culture, steeped in a profound allegorical language and symbolism meticulously derived from their very craft, would ultimately provide the fertile spiritual ground from which the speculative Freemasonry, the philosophical and fraternal brotherhood we largely know today, would eventually emerge. The true genesis of what would become Freemasonry was therefore not a sudden, singular invention, but a gradual, organic, and deeply human evolution, built stone by stone, lesson by lesson, in the quiet, dedicated work of those who shaped the world with their hands, their minds, and their unwavering principles. The golden age of cathedral building, which had defined much of medieval Europe, began to slowly wane as the centuries turned. Fewer monumental structures were commissioned, and the demand for the highly specialized skills of the operative stonemasons, those who literally worked the stone, began to diminish. Yet the lodges, these unique gathering places where masons lived, worked, and shared their intricate craft, did not simply disappear. Instead, they began a profound and gradual transformation, shifting their focus from the physical construction of grand edifices to the more abstract, yet equally significant building of character and community. This was the true genesis of what would become known as speculative Freemasonry. You see, the knowledge held by these master masons was not merely practical. It encompassed a deep understanding of geometry, architecture, proportion, and even the symbolic meaning embedded within the very structures they raised. Building a cathedral was seen as an act of devotion, a physical manifestation of divine order. The discipline, the precision, the ethical conduct required to work in harmony on such immense projects naturally fostered a set of moral principles within their brotherhood. They lived by rules of honesty, diligence, and mutual support, understanding that a single weak stone could compromise an entire structure. It was these deeper philosophical underpinnings of their craft that began to attract men who were not, in fact, stonemasons by trade. These new members, often referred to as accepted or speculative masons, came from various walks of life: scholars, gentlemen, merchants, and even nobility. They were drawn not by the need to learn how to cut stone, but by the allure of the Masons' unique system of morality, their ancient traditions, and the promise of a close-knit fraternity. In a society often stratified by birth and wealth, the lodges offered a rare space where men could meet on a level playing field, bound by shared ideals rather than social status. They sought the wisdom that seemed inherent in the Mason's craft, recognizing that the tools used to build cathedrals, the square, the compass, the plumb rule, could also serve as powerful metaphors for moral self-improvement and ethical conduct. The transition was subtle at first. Perhaps a local nobleman, intrigued by the Masons' unusual knowledge and the respect they commanded, might have offered patronage in exchange for membership. Or a man of letters might have found intellectual kinship in discussions within the lodge, where practical skills met esoteric symbolism. As the demand for new cathedrals lessened, the lodges found new purpose by admitting these non-operative members, who brought with them not only intellectual curiosity, but also social influence and financial support. This symbiotic relationship allowed the ancient craft to survive and evolve, transforming from a purely vocational guild into a philosophical society. The rituals of the operative Masons, once practical instructions for building, gradually became allegories for moral instruction. The act of laying a foundation stone, for instance, transitioned from a literal construction task to a symbolic representation of building a strong moral character. The journey through different degrees of masonry, originally marking stages of skill in stonecraft, became a path of progressive self-knowledge and ethical enlightenment. This evolution was not a sudden rupture, but a slow, organic growth, nurtured by the fading light of medieval craftsmanship and the dawn of a new intellectual era. The very secrecy that had once protected trade secrets now protected a new kind of shared wisdom, a unique blend of ancient tradition and burgeoning philosophical inquiry. The cold stone walls of the original lodges gave way to the warmth of fraternal bonds, as the Brotherhood shifted its focus from shaping physical blocks to shaping the very minds and hearts of its members. The principles of brotherhood, relief, and truth, which had always been implicit in the Masons' way of life, now became explicit tenets, forming the bedrock of a new, more expansive and enduring form of association. This quiet yet profound transformation laid the groundwork for the formalization of Freemasonry as we know it today, ready to step out of the shadows of the workshop and into the broader light of the world. This transition from the practical work of building to the philosophical work of self-improvement found its defining moment in the early 18th century, marking a profound shift in the very nature of the Brotherhood. By this point, many of the old lodges, while still preserving the ancient forms and traditions, were increasingly populated by speculative members. These were men of intellect, influence, and diverse professions, who were drawn not by the need to lay physical bricks or carve stone, but by a deep desire to construct character and community through shared ideals and moral principles. It was an era of burgeoning reason and intellectual curiosity, a time when the Enlightenment began to reshape the world, and within this shifting landscape, the seeds of modern Freemasonry truly began to sprout, ready to flower into a new organized form. In the bustling heart of London, in the year 1717, a pivotal event occurred, one that would forever alter the course of this ancient fraternity. 4 existing lodges, each a repository of centuries-old customs and symbolic wisdom, made a collective decision to unite. These were not grand, imposing structures, but rather humble, yet vital gathering places. You might imagine the flickering candlelight, the warmth of a hearth, and the low hum of earnest discussion within their walls. These were establishments such as the Goose and Gridiron Ale House, the Apple Tree Tavern, the Crown Ale House, and the Rummer and Grapes Tavern. These unassuming venues served as the crucible for a movement that would, in time, spread across the globe. Their purpose was clear and ambitious: to consolidate the scattered brethren, to revive the ancient customs and practices that might have varied or faded in different localities, and critically, to establish a central governing body. It was a conscious act of consolidation, a deliberate move to bring order, coherence, and a unified structure to the various independent lodges that had operated autonomously for so long. On St. John the Baptist's Day, June 24, 1717, these 4 lodges formally convened and, through a collective agreement, established the premier Grand Lodge of England. This was a monumental step, marking the official genesis of organized Freemasonry as a structured, coherent fraternity, now distinct from the older, purely operative guilds. To lead this newly unified body, they elected a Grand Master, a symbolic figurehead who would preside over the collective. The first gentleman to hold this esteemed position was Anthony Sayer, a name that, while perhaps not as widely recognized as others in history, holds undeniable significance for his foundational role. His election and the subsequent establishment of the Grand Lodge provided the essential framework for standardizing rituals, for ensuring consistency in the moral and philosophical teachings, and for fostering a stronger sense of universal brotherhood among members. Prior to this, lodges often operated with a high degree of autonomy, their specific practices and interpretations of the ancient traditions varying from one locality to another. The Grand Lodge brought a new level of coherence and a unifying authority, enabling the Brotherhood to grow, to maintain its integrity, and to extend its influence across an ever-widening geographical reach. This formal organization allowed Freemasonry to transcend its roots as a purely local craft guild and to emerge definitively as a philosophical and fraternal society with a broader and more intellectual appeal. It offered a unique space where men could gather regardless of their social standing, their religious denomination, or their political affiliations, to engage in thoughtful discussion on moral philosophy, to participate in organized acts of charity, and to cultivate personal virtue through a shared symbolic language. The secret rituals, which were carefully preserved, and the symbolic tools derived from the ancient stonemasons' trade became the core curriculum for this process of self-improvement. The square, the compass, the plumb rule, and other instruments, once tangible tools for shaping physical stone, now served as potent allegorical reminders of how one should shape one's life with integrity, justice, and rectitude. The establishment of the premier Grand Lodge was more than a mere administrative act. It was a profound declaration of intent, a clear statement of the fraternity's ambition. It signified Freemasonry's determination to be more than simply a social club or a nostalgic remnant of medieval guilds. It aimed to be a potent moral force, an institution dedicated to the betterment of humanity through the individual improvement of its members. This newly formalized and centralized structure provided the necessary foundation for its rapid expansion, initially across the British Isles, and then, with increasing speed and enthusiasm, across the continents. It was a moment when a quiet, ancient tradition stepped decisively into the light of modernity, ready to embrace a new era of influence and growth, carrying its timeless principles of brotherhood, morality, and self-improvement into an ever-changing world. The stage was now set for the Brotherhood to extend its reach far beyond the taverns of London, carrying its unique blend of moral instruction and fraternal bonds to distant lands and diverse cultures, shaping minds and building communities in ways few could have foreseen. The formation of the Premier Grand Lodge of England in 1717 represented far more than a simple organizational shift for a group of artisans and gentlemen in London. It ignited a powerful and unprecedented global expansion of this unique form of brotherhood. This new, formalized structure, characterized by its clear administrative framework, standardized rituals, and a unifying authority, offered a highly attractive and remarkably replicable model for men across the globe. It presented an organized community founded on shared moral principles, intellectual exploration, and mutual support, effectively transcending the established societal boundaries of class, profession, and increasingly national origin. The 18th century itself was a period defined by rapid advancements in communication and transportation, fostering an era of burgeoning global interconnectedness through burgeoning trade routes, intricate diplomatic networks, and extensive military campaigns. It was precisely through these dynamic channels that the tenets and structure of Freemasonry embarked on its extraordinary journey beyond the confines of the British Isles, spreading with astonishing speed and efficacy. Traveling merchants, driven by commercial ambition, became inadvertent carriers of the fraternity's ideals, planting the seeds of new lodges in distant port cities and bustling trade hubs across continents. Military officers, deployed far from home in service of their crowns, found in the establishment of lodges a familiar sense of order, camaraderie, and intellectual refuge in often alien environments, providing a crucial social anchor for their regiments. diplomats navigating the complex political landscapes between European capitals discovered in Masonry a universal language of shared values and a common ground that could subtly bridge even deeply entrenched political and religious divides, fostering an atmosphere of trust and discreet cooperation. The profound appeal of Freemasonry during this vibrant age of enlightenment was undeniable and multifaceted. Its steadfast emphasis on the power of reason, the importance of individual liberty, and a broadly non-dogmatic approach to spirituality resonated deeply with the prevailing intellectual and philosophical currents of the era. Within continental Europe, the spread was swift and impactful. In France, for example, the very first lodges emerged remarkably early in the 18th century, quickly attracting a diverse membership that included influential figures from the aristocracy, the rapidly expanding middle class, and the intellectually vibrant salons of Paris and other major cities. Many Huguenot exiles, having sought refuge and community abroad after religious persecution, often found a particularly welcoming and supportive embrace within these burgeoning lodges, which fostered a vital sense of shared identity and collective purpose in their new homes. From France, the Masonic movement radiated rapidly into the various Germanic states, where it gained enthusiastic adherents among prominent scholars, celebrated artists, and even members of royalty. Notably, Frederick the Great of Prussia, a highly influential monarch and a figurehead of the Enlightenment, became a Freemason himself, bestowing considerable prestige and legitimacy upon the order throughout Central Europe. This royal endorsement further fueled its growth. Lodges soon began to flourish in the vast expanses of Russia, the serene landscapes of Scandinavia, and the sun-drenched Mediterranean lands, each adapting subtly to local customs and cultural nuances while meticulously preserving the fundamental core rituals and philosophical principles that defined the Brotherhood. Across the expansive Atlantic Ocean, in the rapidly developing American colonies, Freemasonry discovered an exceptionally fertile ground. The deeply ingrained ideals of liberty, the pursuit of self-governance, and an unwavering commitment to the acquisition of knowledge. Principles that were fundamentally interwoven with the burgeoning colonial spirit, aligned almost perfectly with the foundational tenets of Masonic philosophy. Early lodges were swiftly established in strategically important port cities such as Philadelphia, Boston, and Charleston, quickly evolving into vital centers for vibrant social interaction and intellectual exchange. These colonial lodges frequently served as informal yet crucial meeting places where men from remarkably diverse backgrounds, including industrious merchants, skilled craftsmen, diligent farmers, and aspiring political leaders, could gather on an equal footing, engage in free-flowing discussion of ideas, and cultivate robust networks of trust and mutual cooperation. The Brotherhood's explicit emphasis on merit and character over inherited birthright, coupled with its passionate promotion of enlightened thought and civic virtue, made it singularly attractive to a society that was actively engaged in forging its own distinct identity and seeking to decisively break away from the rigid, hierarchical structures of the old world. The sheer speed with which Freemasonry expanded globally was genuinely astonishing, a testament to its inherent adaptability and universal appeal. Within mere decades of the premier Grand Lodge's foundational establishment, chartered lodges had been successfully formed in virtually every corner of the known world where European influence had taken root. This rapid diffusion was not merely a geographical spread, it represented a profound cultural phenomenon, demonstrating Masonry's remarkable capacity to fulfill a deep-seated human need for structured community, moral instruction, and a profound sense of belonging in an era of unprecedented change and intellectual ferment. Each newly established lodge, while intrinsically connected to the English Mother Lodge through a shared foundational heritage and common rituals, inevitably developed its own unique local character, subtly reflecting the distinct culture and the specific aspirations of its members. Yet, beneath these superficial variations, the fundamental and unwavering principles of brotherly love, the practice of relief, charity, and the pursuit of truth remained the unshakable bedrock, ensuring a common, enduring bond that stretched seamlessly across vast oceans and diverse continents, thereby creating a truly global network of like-minded individuals dedicated to self-improvement and societal betterment. The formation of the premier Grand Lodge of England in 1717 triggered Freemasonry's unprecedented global expansion. Its formalized structure, universal appeal, and resonance with Enlightenment ideals allowed it to rapidly spread across continents via trade, military, and diplomatic channels, forming a diverse yet unified brotherhood. This unity, spanning vast distances and varied cultures, was not accidental. It was carefully cultivated through a shared set of profound philosophical tenets that formed the very moral compass of the fraternity. For a society born from the practical skills of stonemasons, its most enduring legacy proved to be the construction not of physical structures, but of character itself. At its heart, Freemasonry emphasizes the continuous journey of moral self-improvement. Imagine, if you will, the stonemason taking a raw, unhewn stone from the quarry, a rough ashlar full of imperfections and sharp edges. Through skill and patient effort, using tools like the chisel and the mallet, he transforms it into a smooth, perfectly shaped block, a perfect ashlar, ready to be integrated into a grand design. This ancient allegory is central to the Masonic philosophy. Each member, upon joining, is seen as a rough ashlar, imperfect and in need of refinement. The rituals, teachings, and fellowship within the lodge are the tools, encouraging each individual to chip away at their own vices, smooth out their flaws, and build upon their virtues. This commitment to personal growth is a lifelong endeavor, a quiet, internal work aimed at becoming a better person, a more upright citizen, and a more compassionate human being. It is a belief that true progress begins within the individual. Beyond self-improvement, the Brotherhood cherishes the principle of brotherly love. This is not merely a polite sentiment, but an active, supportive bond. Within the lodge, men from different social strata, professions, and backgrounds meet on a level playing field, shedding external distinctions. The focus shifts from worldly status to shared humanity and mutual respect. This cultivation of fraternity means that Masons are expected to assist one another in times of need, offer counsel, and provide comfort, always upholding the dignity of their fellow man. It fosters an environment where trust and genuine affection can flourish, creating a powerful network of support that transcends geographical boundaries and personal circumstances. This spirit of brotherly love naturally extends into the realm of charity, or relief, as it is often termed within Freemasonry. From its earliest days, the fraternity has been deeply committed to philanthropic endeavors. This commitment manifests in various ways, from providing aid to distressed members and their families, to supporting wider community initiatives. Masonic charities have historically built hospitals, established orphanages, funded educational institutions, and offered assistance during natural disasters. The act of giving, not for recognition or applause, but out of a sincere desire to alleviate suffering, is considered a fundamental duty. It embodies the principle that those who are able should reach out to help those who are less fortunate, contributing positively to the well-being of society as a whole. Perhaps one of the most distinctive and, for its time, truly revolutionary tenets of Freemasonry is its embrace of tolerance, particularly in matters of religion. While a belief in a supreme being is a fundamental requirement for membership, the fraternity does not dictate the specific nature of that belief. Instead, it refers to this divine entity as the great architect of the universe, a universal term that allows individuals of diverse faiths, Christians, Jews, Muslims, and others, to worship according to their own conscience while uniting within the lodge. This principle of religious inclusivity was groundbreaking in an era often defined by sectarian conflict. It meant that men who might otherwise be divided by theological differences could sit together in harmony, focusing on shared moral principles rather than doctrinal disputes. This dedication to religious freedom and mutual respect fostered an environment of intellectual open-mindedness and cooperation. Furthermore, Freemasonry champions the pursuit of truth and knowledge. Drawing from the intellectual currents of the Enlightenment, it encourages its members to seek wisdom, engage in rational inquiry, and continually expand their understanding of the world and themselves. Debates on politics and religion are strictly prohibited within the lodge, not to suppress thought, but to maintain harmony and focus on universal moral and philosophical discussions. The emphasis is on learning, reflection, and the application of reason to life's challenges. This intellectual curiosity, coupled with the moral framework, aim to produce not just good men, but enlightened ones, capable of contributing thoughtfully and constructively to their communities. These core principles, moral self-improvement, brotherly love, active charity, religious tolerance, and the pursuit of knowledge, collectively form the bedrock of Freemasonry's appeal. They offered a framework for living a purposeful and virtuous life, attracting individuals who sought personal growth and communal support in an increasingly complex world. It was this robust moral compass that truly propelled the Brotherhood's influence far beyond its initial European strongholds, laying the groundwork for its enduring presence across the globe. Having understood the principles that guide Freemasonry, you might wonder how these abstract ideals are conveyed and internalized by its members. The answer lies at the very heart of the craft, in its rich symbolic language and its allegorical rituals. Freemasonry does not teach through sermons or dogmatic lectures. Instead, it uses a unique system of symbols and metaphors derived directly from the ancient trade of stonemasonry. These are not merely decorative elements. They are profound tools for moral and ethical instruction, designed to resonate deeply with the human experience. Consider, for instance, the square and compass, perhaps the most iconic symbols of Freemasonry, visible on countless Masonic emblems. To an operative stonemason, the square was essential for ensuring that stones were cut perfectly with true right angles, guaranteeing structural integrity. The compass was used to draw circles and arcs, to measure proportions and ensure harmony in design. In Freemasonry, these tools transcend their practical utility. The square becomes a symbol of morality and rectitude, reminding every Mason to square his actions by the principles of virtue and honesty, to act with integrity in all his dealings, and to live within the bounds of propriety. It teaches you to be upright, fair, and just in your interactions with others, thereby ensuring that your character is as true and unyielding as a perfectly cut stone. The compass, conversely, symbolizes self-control and restraint. Its two legs, one fixed and one movable, represent the Mason's ability to confine his passions and desires within due bounds. It encourages you to draw a circle around your conduct, ensuring that your thoughts, words, and deeds are always guided by wisdom and moderation. The compass teaches you to temper your impulses, to exercise discretion, and to maintain balance in your life, preventing you from straying into excesses that could harm yourself or others. Together, the square and compass represent the harmonious balance between moral rectitude and self-governance, essential for building a virtuous character. Beyond these fundamental tools, the Masonic Lodge itself is replete with symbolism. It is often described as a representation of the universe, or more specifically, King Solomon's Temple, a legendary edifice renowned for its beauty, wisdom, and strength. This architectural masterpiece serves as the ultimate allegorical blueprint for the moral and spiritual temple that each Mason is encouraged to build within himself. Every aspect of the lodge, from its orientation to its internal layout and furnishings, meticulously holds symbolic meaning, guiding the initiate through a journey of self-discovery and enlightenment. The very act of entering the lodge and progressing through its various areas is a symbolic journey from darkness to light, from ignorance to knowledge. The rituals themselves are not secret in the sense of being hidden from existence, but rather in their interpretation and meaning, which are revealed progressively to members. These rituals are dramatic allegories, carefully constructed narratives that impart moral and philosophical lessons through action and experience rather than mere rote memorization. They involve a series of ceremonies, often incorporating questions, answers, and symbolic actions designed to impress upon the candidate the importance of certain virtues and principles. For example, a candidate. Yet, it was this very veil of secrecy meant to protect their profound teachings and foster an intimate bond of brotherhood that paradoxically became a source of deep suspicion and widespread misunderstanding. For those outside the closed doors of the lodge, the hushed meetings, the cryptic symbols, and the solemn oaths seemed to suggest not merely a society of moral improvement, but rather something far more ominous. Whispers began to circulate, growing louder with each passing year, transforming curiosity into genuine fear. The Age of Enlightenment, which had initially embraced Masonic ideals of reason and liberty, also brought with it an increased scrutiny of any group operating outside the direct purview of established power. Monarchies, wary of any challenge to their divine right, and religious institutions, protective of their doctrinal supremacy, began to view the burgeoning network of lodges with growing apprehension. In France, for example, before the Revolution, the aristocracy's involvement in Freemasonry was seen by some as a sign of moral decay, while after the Revolution, the society was accused of having orchestrated the upheaval itself, despite its stated apolitical nature. Similarly, in various German states, rulers feared that Masonic lodges could become breeding grounds for revolutionary ideas, leading to suppression or strict oversight. The most persistent accusations centered on two main areas: political subversion and religious heresy. Critics claim that behind the closed doors, Masons were not merely discussing philosophy, but actively plotting to overthrow existing governments, to manipulate political processes, and to establish a new world order. This fear was often inflamed by the fact that many influential figures, from philosophers to military leaders, were known to be Masons, leading some to believe they were part of a vast, secret conspiracy. Simultaneously, the charge of religious heresy was leveled against them because Freemasonry accepted men of all faiths who believed in a supreme being without requiring adherence to any specific dogma. It was wrongly perceived by some as promoting deism or even atheism, thereby undermining the authority of traditional churches. Its allegorical rituals, which drew upon biblical and ancient symbolic traditions, were misinterpreted as blasphemous or as attempts to create a rival religion. The very universality of its appeal, which Masons saw as a virtue, was twisted by detractors into a sign of dangerous relativism. This climate of suspicion was not confined to any single nation. It spread across Europe like a creeping shadow. In the Papal States, the Catholic Church issued condemnations, such as Pope Clement X's encyclical in Eminenti in 1738, which explicitly forbade Catholics from joining Masonic lodges under pain of excommunication. These condemnations were largely driven by the Church's concern over the society's secrecy, its perceived religious indifference, and its potential to foster independent thought that might challenge ecclesiastical authority. In Russia, particularly under Catherine the Great and later Paul I, Freemasonry faced periods of intense scrutiny and suppression as the monarchy feared its potential to spread liberal and revolutionary ideas, especially after the French Revolution. The idea of a brotherhood that transcended national borders and religious divides seemed inherently threatening to the established order, which relied on clear hierarchies and defined loyalties. The accusations often escalated into wild conspiracy theories, claiming that Masons engaged in dark rituals, practiced black magic, or even worshiped the devil. Pamphlets and public sermons denounced the Brotherhood, painting a picture of a sinister organization bent on controlling society from the shadows. These fears were often fueled by a lack of factual information about the inner workings of the lodges, allowing rampant speculation to fill the void. The Masons, for their part, often chose to maintain their silence, believing that their good works and moral conduct would eventually dispel the myths. However, this quiet dignity, their refusal to reveal their private proceedings, sometimes only served to deepen the mystery in the public mind, reinforcing the very suspicions they hoped to avoid. The very concept of a secret society became synonymous with hidden power and dangerous influence, a notion that would persist for centuries, casting a long, often undeserved shadow over the fraternity's true aims. This period marked the beginning of a persistent struggle for Freemasonry, a challenge to its very right to exist and operate freely, forcing it to navigate a world increasingly wary of its discreet nature, despite its openly declared principles of benevolence and enlightenment. It was a time when the mere act of gathering in private, of sharing knowledge through allegory, could be misconstrued as a direct threat to the established order, igniting fear, laying the groundwork for future conflicts and misunderstandings that would persist. Yet, across the Atlantic, in the burgeoning American colonies, Freemasonry's story unfolded differently. While European monarchs and religious authorities viewed the Brotherhood with suspicion, seeing it as a threat to rigid social structures and inherited power, the New World proved receptive to its core ideals. The absence of entrenched aristocracy and the emphasis on merit rather than birthright created an environment where a society valuing personal growth and fraternal bonds could flourish. Freemasonry arrived in the colonies through British soldiers, merchants, and settlers who carried their lodge warrants and traditions with them. Early lodges were quickly formed in bustling urban centers like Philadelphia, Boston, and Charleston, rapidly attracting men of influence, intellect, and ambition. These were individuals eager to shape a new destiny, men who valued enlightened reason, open discourse, and the relentless pursuit of knowledge. The structured yet egalitarian environment of the lodge, with its emphasis on moral philosophy, shared rituals, and strong fraternal bonds, appealed to a populace increasingly questioning the rigid societal norms and distant authority of the old world. It is a historical fact, often understated in general narratives, that a significant number of the most prominent figures in the American Revolution and the subsequent formation of the United States were active and dedicated members of the Masonic Brotherhood. George Washington, the revered commander of the Continental Army and the nation's first president, was not merely a member, but a devoted Mason who presided over lodges. Benjamin Franklin, the brilliant polymath, printer, inventor, and diplomat whose influence spanned continents, was a highly respected Mason, using his connections to foster American interests abroad. Other notable figures included John Hancock, whose bold signature adorns the Declaration of Independence, and Paul Revere, the legendary patriot whose midnight ride signaled the onset of conflict. These men, along with countless other leaders, found in Freemasonry a shared platform for collaboration, mutual support, and the cultivation of trust, transcending the often fierce rivalries between individual colonies and fostering a profound unity of purpose essential for revolution. The ideals espoused within the Masonic lodges resonated deeply with the revolutionary spirit sweeping through the colonies. The Brotherhood consistently taught the paramount importance of individual liberty, the pursuit of truth through reasoned inquiry, and the cultivation of personal virtue. It championed the concept of a great architect of the universe, a supreme being whose existence was acknowledged without dictating specific religious dogma. This inclusive theological approach allowed men of diverse Christian denominations and even deists to gather in genuine harmony, fostering a spirit of tolerance and universal brotherhood that mirrored the aspirations for a new nation built on pluralism and mutual respect, rather than sectarian division. Masonic rituals, with their rich symbolic language drawn directly from the ancient stonemasons' craft, provided potent allegorical metaphors for the arduous task of nation building. The square, symbolizing morality and honesty, and the compass, representing self-control and the ability to circumscribe one's passions, became profound emblems for the moral principles upon which a just and enduring society should be constructed. The idea of building a better world, of shaping raw human material into a harmonious and ordered structure, aligned perfectly with the ambitions of those who sought to establish a republic founded on enlightened principles. The fraternity offered a discreet and reliable network of like-minded individuals, a vital space where sensitive ideas could be freely exchanged, plans quietly discussed, and absolute trust cultivated, all away from the watchful eyes of British colonial authorities. This intricate network, while never a conspiratorial force directly orchestrating events, certainly provided an invaluable framework for the exchange of revolutionary thought and the effective coordination of efforts among leaders from disparate backgrounds. It fostered a deep sense of shared identity and a common purpose that proved indispensable during a time of profound social and political upheaval. The Masonic commitment to personal self-improvement, to becoming a better man through moral discipline and continuous learning, translated into a powerful collective drive to create a better society, one that valued individual rights, civic duty, and the common good above all else. This quiet yet pervasive influence helped to shape the very bedrock of American democracy, embedding principles of liberty, equality, and fraternity into the nascent nation's foundational documents and its enduring ethos. From its significant role in shaping the very foundations of a new nation, Freemasonry, despite its noble ideals of liberty and brotherhood, was destined to face profound and often fierce opposition. The 19th century, in particular, brought formidable challenges, revealing the deep-seated fears and suspicions that secret societies could ignite within the public consciousness. One of the most defining moments of this period occurred in the United States, beginning in 1826, with what became known as the Morgan Affair. William Morgan, a former Mason from Batavia, New York, had declared his intention to publish an exposé revealing the rituals and secrets of the fraternity. Before his book could be widely distributed, Morgan mysteriously disappeared. While the precise circumstances of his fate remained debated, public opinion, fueled by sensational reports, quickly turned against the Masons, widely suspecting them of abduction or even murder. This incident ignited a powerful anti-Masonic sentiment across the nation. People genuinely feared that a secret organization could operate above the law, capable of such extreme actions to protect its hidden knowledge. This widespread public outcry led to the unprecedented formation of the Anti-Masonic Party, a political movement dedicated to exposing and ultimately abolishing Freemasonry. This party, drawing support from various segments of society who mistrusted elite groups or secret oaths, gained considerable political traction, fielding candidates in local, state, and even national elections. They presented Freemasonry as a dangerous, anti-democratic force, a hidden government manipulating justice and public life. Though the anti-Masonic Party eventually faded from prominence, its brief but impactful rise demonstrated the potent anxieties that the Brotherhood's discreet nature could provoke. The accusations, often exaggerated or entirely baseless, painted a picture of a vast conspiratorial network. Beyond the United States, Freemasonry faced persistent and often more systemic opposition, particularly from religious institutions. The Roman Catholic Church for centuries had viewed Freemasonry with deep suspicion, issuing numerous papal condemnations. This opposition stemmed from several key points. The Church perceived Freemasonry as a rival authority, a secularizing influence that promoted religious indifferentism by welcoming men of all faiths, and an organization whose secret oaths and rituals were deemed incompatible with Catholic doctrine. Popes, from Clement XV in the 18th century to Leo VIII in the late 19th century, issued encyclicals and decrees explicitly forbidding all Catholics from joining Masonic lodges, often under pain of excommunication. This strong ecclesiastical stance led to severe persecution of Masons in predominantly Catholic countries, where membership could result in social ostracization, legal penalties, or worse. The 20th century brought the most brutal and systematic persecution of Freemasonry, primarily under totalitarian regimes. In Nazi Germany, the Brotherhood was declared an enemy of the state, alongside Jews and communists. Adolf Hitler and the Nazi regime viewed Freemasonry as part of an international Jewish Masonic conspiracy aimed at global domination. Lodges were forcibly dissolved, their properties confiscated, and their extensive libraries and records seized. Thousands of Masons were arrested, tortured, and sent to concentration camps, where many perished. Similarly, under communist regimes in the Soviet Union and its satellite states, Freemasonry was suppressed as a bourgeois and counter-revolutionary organization, an ideological threat to the state's absolute control over all forms of association and thought. The very concept of a private fraternal society with its own rituals and a belief in a supreme being was anathema to atheistic communist ideology. Fascist Italy, under Benito Mussolini, also outlawed Freemasonry, seeing its international connections and emphasis on individual liberty as a direct challenge to the nationalist and authoritarian state. Throughout these periods of intense pressure and existential threat, Freemasonry demonstrated remarkable resilience. Rather than abandoning its principles, the Brotherhood often went underground, or its members quietly maintained their connections and continued their charitable work in secret. The discretion that had sometimes fueled suspicion now became a shield, allowing the core traditions to survive. These trials, though severe, paradoxically strengthened the bonds among members and reinforced their commitment to the enduring ideals of moral self-improvement, brotherly love, and universal benevolence, proving that the principles forged in stone and refined through centuries could withstand even the fiercest storms of human prejudice and political oppression. And so, we arrive at the present, at the modern Brotherhood, a testament to enduring strength and adaptability. After weathering centuries of scrutiny, condemnation, and outright suppression, particularly during the turbulent periods of the 20th century under regimes like Nazism and communism, Freemasonry did not vanish. Instead, it quietly regrouped, often in the shadows, waiting for the return of conditions that allowed for its reemergence. When the Iron Curtains fell and the oppressive totalitarian grip loosened across various nations, lodges that had been dormant for decades began to stir once more, their dedicated members, or the descendants of those who had courageously preserved the flame, diligently rekindling the ancient fires of brotherhood and shared purpose. Today, you will find Freemasonry flourishing across the globe, a truly international fraternity with millions of members actively participating in its traditions. While its specific numbers may fluctuate from year to year, its significant presence remains steadfast in virtually every democratic nation, extending from the Americas to Europe, throughout Asia, across Africa, and deep into Australia. This remarkable global reach is not simply about the sheer volume of membership. It profoundly reflects a shared set of timeless values and a common underlying purpose that genuinely transcends national borders, deep-seated cultural differences, and even diverse religious affiliations, provided only that there is a fundamental belief in a supreme being, a great architect of the universe. This inherent universality is one of its most unique and remarkable characteristics, allowing a Mason from one corner of the world to visit a lodge in another distant land and find immediate recognition and a truly profound sense of brotherhood through universally shared rituals and fundamental principles. Perhaps one of the most visible and impactful aspects of contemporary Freemasonry, though often understated in public discourse, is its vast and extensive charitable endeavors. For many centuries, Masons have been deeply committed to profound acts of philanthropy, seeing it as a direct and tangible extension of their core principle of brotherly love and relief for all humanity. This unwavering commitment is not limited to sporadic or token donations. It is, in fact, an intrinsic and fundamental part of their operational ethos. You will consistently find Masonic charities actively supporting a wide array of institutions, including hospitals, orphanages, specialized schools, and compassionate homes for the elderly. They tirelessly fund critical medical research, provide invaluable scholarships for deserving students pursuing higher education, and offer essential assistance to communities grappling with the aftermath of devastating natural disasters. Many of these highly effective charitable organizations, such as the Shriners International, widely known for their extensive network of specialized children's hospitals, operate with a prominent public profile, yet their deep and foundational roots in Masonic principles are often entirely unknown to the general public. The sheer scale of these collective contributions is immense, amounting to hundreds of millions of dollars annually given quietly and consistently to benefit society at large, powerfully demonstrating that the Brotherhood's focus extends far beyond its own members, reaching out to touch countless lives. Despite its long and venerated history and its adherence to traditional methods, Freemasonry has ingeniously found innovative ways to remain profoundly relevant in a rapidly changing and often fragmented world. Its core principles, which rigorously emphasize personal integrity, ethical conduct in all dealings, and the relentless pursuit of knowledge and wisdom, continue to resonate deeply with individuals seeking genuine meaning, purpose, and authentic connection in an increasingly complex and impersonal society. The profound idea of moral self-improvement, of constantly striving to make a good man even better, remains an absolutely central tenet of the Masonic experience. Members are consistently encouraged to apply the profound symbolic tools of the craft. The square for squaring their actions with rectitude, the compass for circumscribing their passions within due bounds, directly to their daily lives, guiding them towards a more virtuous and purposeful existence. This unwavering focus on individual character development, combined with the strong and unwavering bonds of fraternity, offers a truly unique and compelling alternative to the often superficial and fleeting connections prevalent in the modern age. The discreet nature of Freemasonry, which has so often been mistakenly interpreted or misrepresented as clandestine secrecy, continues to be a defining characteristic of the organization. Lodges operate privately, and their internal rituals are reserved exclusively for all initiated members, fostering an invaluable sense of shared experience, profound mutual trust, and unwavering confidentiality. However, the very existence of lodges, their regular meeting times, and the identities of their members are generally not held in strict secrecy. You can, in fact, often find readily available information about local lodges and their various public activities in open directories or online resources. This crucial distinction between cherished privacy and overt secrecy is absolutely fundamental to understanding the modern Brotherhood. They are not a clandestine organization plotting global domination. They are rather a venerable fraternal society that deeply values privacy in its internal workings, much akin to any respected private club, professional association, or religious congregation. This carefully maintained discretion allows them to cultivate an environment where members can freely and openly explore profound philosophical and moral ideas without the burden of external pressures or public judgment, thereby fostering a truly unique and supportive space for profound personal growth and vital communal support. Thus, the intricate story of the Freemasons, from their ancient origins in the skilled stone guilds of medieval Europe to their expansive global presence today, is one of remarkable continuity, profound adaptation, and unwavering resilience. It is a compelling narrative of survival, transformation, and the enduring power of fundamental ideas. The whispers of the Brotherhood continue, not as a hidden conspiracy or a secret cabal, but as a quiet, steady, and influential force dedicated unequivocally to the betterment of its individual members and, through their collective and charitable actions, to the broader world in which we all live. They embody a timeless belief that the diligent pursuit of wisdom, the compassionate practice of charity, and the sincere cultivation of brotherly love are principles as vitally important today as they were centuries ago, continuing their silent and dedicated work, building not magnificent cathedrals of stone, but enduring temples of character within the hearts and minds of men across generations.